What do I keep saying? If Republicans played by the same rules as Democrats, we would absolutely destroy them electorally everywhere. But we don't, except this one judge who just ruled Virginia's new map unconstitutional because he probably saw all the information I'm about to go through with you. But watch, our liberal court is probably going to overrule him, and we'll be back at square one. So the Virginia redistricting referendum happened last night, okay? The perfect example of how Democrats respond to any legitimate redistricting like what Republicans did in Texas.
But what a night in Virginia. We keep saying it. When we fight fire with fire, we win. And we are winning all across the United States, in state houses, in courthouses, and now in the court of public opinion.
First off, Gavin Newsom should not be saying anything about fire after his entire state burned down because his fire hydrants were empty. But I also would look, I wouldn't exactly call 51% that, by the way, owns less than 5% of the guns, public opinion. Also, looking at the wording of this ballot initiative, here, look. Should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily, not temporary at all, adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections? No! Restore fairness? Scott Jennings actually laid this out perfectly, how not fair this map is.
Virginia literally had the fairest maps in the nation. They had a 6-5 map, 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. In terms of proportional representation, they had the fairest map in the nation that was drawn, by the way, by an independent commission that the voters asked for just a few years ago. Now they will have the least fair maps in the nation.
Fair? Look, I'm not just complaining here, okay? I'm going to give you my solution to this in just a second, okay? There's about 0 Republicans that'll probably listen to me, but they'll probably also wonder why they lose in November. But I really want to wind you up first, to hammer home how little Democrats who ran as moderates care about your opinion if it doesn't involve keeping them in power, okay? This is what changed in the middle of the night for fairness. You tell me a single reason why Republicans shouldn't do the exact same thing. This is the same map. They shouldn't do the exact same thing to edge out Democrat votes in their cities and states. Democrats basically negated rural districts. This is the change. Tell me how that better represents some of those districts. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 representing all this, okay? Basically, they're all in the suburbs of Washington, deep blue Washington, D.C., where now 5 Democrat congressmen could all essentially live within like 2 miles of each other and still represent geographically 40% of the state of Virginia for, fairness. This wasn't fair at all. A state that went, like Scott Jennings said, 45-55 Democrat in the last presidential election, that was basically 60-40 congressionally represented. So to remove this is who voted to override the previous map. Less than 10% of the districts in deep blue areas that already had Democrat representation somehow voted to take away all the other districts' Republican congressmen, except for 1, by a 2-point margin. Mind you, and this could be relevant if Democrats keep pushing this, because they took representation from all these people who own all the firearms in the state. Oh, you might think that's like hyperbole and that I'm, dinking around or it's fringe. It's not. It's literally built into the Constitution because our founding fathers knew that weak men one day would try to take the representation of strong men by persuading other weak men to do things and vote for things, by the way, that are persuaded with tax dollars from strong men. As one judge in the very red, very armed area of Virginia just ruled it unconstitutional, issuing an injunction about not being able to certify this election, I'm sure that's going to be appealed, and it probably will be overturned by a blue court. We'll be at the Supreme Court in no time. By the way, in a manner that Trump called out today, okay? He said a rigged election took place last night in the great Commonwealth of Virginia. All day long, Republicans were winning. The spirit was unbelievable until the very end when, of course, there was a massive mail-in ballot drop. Where have I heard that before, he said. Look, I'm not making a decision one way or another. I'm just pointing out that the math, not so much mathing tonight. This was the ballot count. The type of voting. Day of voting went 53% to no redistricting. 47% of early voting went no redistricting, and there it is. 73% of mail-in ballots went to yes on redistricting. And then, weird, there were 60,000 mysteriously counted in 5 minutes at the very end when 98% was reporting in a manner that doesn't have the capacity to be tabulated at that rate. But what do I know? You know, there's this weird thing. I'm trying to think, oh, that's right, the Save America Act. It would rein all this stuff in, but yet Republicans won't pass it. While Hakeem Jeffries, the guy who will be the Speaker of the House if Republicans don't get their act together, last night said this: maximum warfare everywhere all the time. And we're out there with like kid gloves. They're saying it out loud. We played James Carville saying that they're going to pack the courts. They're going to add 4 Democrat more senators. They're going to rig elections for the rest of time. They don't care about fair fights. By the way, where was the RNC during this? Democrats outspent the Republicans 10-1 on this effort. What did they think was going to happen? But despite that, this is nearly every presidential election dating back to after Ronald Reagan beat Mondale in 49 states. But it's basically been since then a 50-50 proposition nationally every 4 years. Imagine if Republicans played by the same rules as Democrats. I showed you the other day that Democrats in New England have 100% representation of 6 states that more than 40% of the area voted for Donald Trump. Perhaps it's time where Texas, they allow 13 Democrat seats to exist, Florida 8, Georgia 5, North Carolina 4, Michigan 6. How about we play by those same rules and make all those states only have 1 seat Democrat? Republicans would pick up 31 seats right there. I mean, why not? While we're at it, let's redo the census now, like Trump wanted to do, without counting illegals. They're only counted because Democrats made it happen and Republicans let them do it. That would give states constitutional cover to further redistrict states with the Republican trifectas in state government. Alabama could eliminate, probably, I mean, zooming into that, you could probably get rid of at least one of those congressional districts, okay? Indiana, I mean, Trump won that state by, I think, like 20 points. I'm sure we could find some sort of way to get rid of both of those seats in Indiana. Kansas, name, like, same thing there. They have 1 blue district that's like a little part of a city. Dilute that blue city into 4 other rural districts and make the whole state red. Missouri, probably easy, very easy. They only have 2 congressional districts that are Democrat, but they're so tiny, I'd be willing to bet you could figure out a way to kind of get them out of the mix. Tennessee, since Virginia made 1 city into 5 districts, make 5 districts, dilute 1 city. Easy peasy. Let's not even get started on lawfare Democrats waged against Republicans. Half the Democrat leadership would probably be in jail if we actually played the same game they did. I mean, this is easy. Look, it's legal. Probably should have been done 20 years ago. Call your congressman and ask him why it's not.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.